gorgeous human beings of currency. This is module 2. And I'm seeing people I was with not long ago. We just did our coach celebration call. I see Heather, I see Marilla, I see Carolina, I see Sarah. I'm seeing all familiar faces that were there with me on the other one. So that's awesome. Karina, thank you for being back. This is so fun. Hello, Linda, again. To all of you that are here. Okay, I have a question. Do we have, Heather's following me around. Do we have anyone here that is just jumping in to the masterclass or to the program? You're just getting started. So you haven't been on top of everything yet. You're like, this is you're jumping in here. Do we have anybody that's there at their starting point, or is everyone kind of caught up? Curious. Oh, we're doing pretty good. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, this is module 2. And I am very excited about module 2. I'm going to keep my camera open in this way so that I can see all of you, because I think this is probably the best way to stay connected to your energy and to notice if there's anything that needs addressing. Are you okay if I'm looking around a little bit like this? Do you still feel connected? Are we okay? Okay, good. So today's module is a little different than the first module, but we deepen. The goal is that we deepen, and it's okay if your screen isn't working as long as you're there in energy and spirit. That's great. But if I can see your face, that's always great. Like, I just love being able to look at you. Honestly, it changes the energy when I can see your face and I can say, okay, they're getting it. Or like, okay, no, somebody here is like, what are you talking about? It's helpful. So this is good. Homo is in the house. So good. Oh my gosh. All right. So here's the thing about today. We talked about value as it pertains to worth on the first module and the opening call. And I am so happy with the breakthroughs that are already happening in the group. Your shares are the greatest shares. I am having the time of my life reading these. Honestly, it is unbelievable. It's so good. And I'm also really impressed with what some of you are saying to each other in the comment section. I'm loving the connection. I'm loving how much you're supporting each other and how the breakthroughs are creating more breakthroughs. I'm seeing people tagging people saying your breakthrough gave me a breakthrough and it made me realize, like, this is the magic of a group program. This is why this is so valuable, is because other people's breakthroughs make you go, I hadn't even thought of it like that, or hadn't even read it that way, or like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible that you say that because it made me realize that blah, blah, blah. We've also had incredible feedback on the Q&A and how so many of the questions that were asked were exactly what other people were going through and wouldn't have even known how to ask it or wouldn't have had the courage to ask. So I think these deepening calls are also very important, and there will be a deepening call for this module as well. So as you're listening, listen knowing that if there's a question, there's going to be an opportunity for that. So listen more with curiosity than a need for it to be everything is understood within one call. Kind of open yourself up. So I want to talk to you about gratitude. I want to talk to you about my first encounter with the experience of being told that the key to ascension is gratitude, while I'm sitting in the front seat of a Honda Civic that I'm also sleeping in it at the time. I haven't eaten in days. I haven't showered in days, and my life is going down the toilet. And now I'm being told that the key to life as I know it is to be grateful. And I'm like, well, this is a very privileged way of experiencing life. Like, the happier you are, the happier you are. Great. What about when you're miserable and there's nothing you can do about it? So I had a hard time with the word gratitude for a very long time. I also realized that gratitude was something that I often felt guilted into. Like, you should be grateful. Have you ever heard that term? Like, I should be grateful. And as I've helped so many people break through their financial stories and their ceilings, this is one that I've heard the most. Is I always felt like I should be grateful. Shouldn't I be grateful for how much I have right now? Like, there are people who struggle more than me. Like, shouldn't I be grateful? Shouldn't I just be grateful for what I have? And so there is a very big difference in energetics in words. We've already talked about this. And today I want to bring you down a different path of energetics. And I want to show you how the word value in substitution for the word gratitude changed my life. So when you're going through a difficult time, and I say, you've got to be grateful for the hard times, there's like a very easy eye roll available there. It's like, I'm so grateful. How could I not be? This is the worst day of my life. # grateful. There's sarcasm. It's like, you do not know what you're talking about. What are you even talking about? Like, how do you be grateful? But what if I said, there's value in the hard times. Can you feel how that kind of goes right? That's like, oh, that's true. There's value in the hard times. So I want to talk to you about contrast. What I realized is that some of the things that didn't resonate fully with me is when people said, you can't experience joy unless you've experienced sadness. You can't experience bliss unless you've experienced pain. And I don't like that. Like, I want to say no to that. I'm like, I feel like that is a very, I'm going to struggle forever kind of thought, and I don't like it. But what if we said, you will value the happiness in your life in contrast to the sadness in your life? Does that pass? This is where realism wins. Like, optimism is fun, but realism wins, because this is the real truth. I have never been more grateful for my health than after a cold. Like, I don't think about my health. I don't think about the fact that I can breathe unless I've just one morning woken up going, my airways are clear. Like, there's a moment of like, oh my gosh. There's the moment your headache leaves your body. My headache's gone. There's a moment where something is healing and you're like, oh my gosh. The reality of the situation is you will most value the thing after you didn't have it. Why is it that the cold of the spring feels so different than the cold of the fall? Because you feel so warm in the summer and then the cold comes and you're like, no. But when you've been cold all winter and the same temperature comes back, you're like, I value the heat. We value because of contrast. Now, this is very different from you can't be happy unless you've got sadness. That's a very idealistic approach where you say something to somebody, look, you've got to look at it like this. How could you really appreciate joy unless, how could you even feel joy unless you'd felt sadness? I think I'd figure it out. Pretty sure I'd figure out how to be happy if I didn't have sadness all the time. Don't think I need it. But that's not what we're looking at. We're saying, can you see how it actually increases the value in your life? Now, let's look at a difficult time that made you realize something that you wouldn't have recognized as soon without what happened. So can you think in your mind something really difficult that happened to you? And if you're willing and you're comfortable to post it in the chat, like whether it was a divorce, whether it was a bankruptcy, whether it was an injury or an illness, something that was really difficult in your life. But like, if you had not gone through that, you know, you would not be as wise as you are now. You know that, like you just know that. So divorce, a lot of divorces that gave you a lot of enlightenment. My horse burning. Oh my God. Breast cancer, abuse, my father dying a month after his diagnosis, a miscarriage, divorce. Oh, my house burning. I mean, those are both awful. When my husband went to the hospital, the dark night of the soul, the death of my mom, both divorces, infertility, miscarriages, cancer, abusive parents. Like, can you just see all these difficult, hard things? Criminal charges, separation, breaking up and getting back together, working through the relationship, children's cancer scare, single parent, pregnant, postpartum depression. Like, when you think of these and you try to tell a person, you've got to be grateful, it feels tone deaf. It's like, if you knew what it felt like for me to have my daughter in emergency surgery, if you would know what it feels like for me to lose someone I love in a blink of an eye, if you know what it feels like to have that, you wouldn't be telling me. But when we look at it, when you look at it, you're telling me you would not be the incredible person you are without these things. That means there was value in the hard time. Not that you should be grateful for them, and not even that you needed them. And this is the detachment, the thing we need to untangle. Because I saw a post about this in the group, and I was so grateful it was coming in time for today's module. Something about a lot of people had to hit rock bottom before they became successful, and compared like Tony Robbins and me and you know, a couple of other people, and said some people have to hit rock bottom before they break through. Here's the thing. It's not that some people have to hit rock bottom, but it's that when you value the hard times, nothing can break you. If you become the kind of person who sees value in the hard times, what could break you? It's grateful for the good times and able to see value in the hard times. If you can do that, you are unbreakable. That doesn't mean you don't experience pain. It doesn't mean you don't fall to your knees in pain. It doesn't mean you don't curse the sky. It doesn't mean that you don't cry every tear in your body. It doesn't mean that you don't scream for the top of your lungs in anger. What it means is once you've done all that, you pick yourself up and you say, if this is happening for me, there will be a day I see the value in this. And here's the beautiful thing is if there's a chance that you're going to see the value in this, there's going to be a lot more possibility of that happening if through the hard thing, you know that's going to happen and you lead yourself knowing something valuable will happen. In the same way, when I was sleeping in the front seat of my car, I had the thought, what if one day I get a job, a successful job, or I break through somehow and there's an opportunity for me to speak at a stage in front of my colleagues or my coworkers or something, and I can like tell them the story of how to not give up. Imagine that. What if? Katya, never apologize for family things coming up. Family first. So we are really looking for in our lives the pathway of when it's good, I tap into that gratitude and I don't take it for granted. And when it's hard, I believe that there will be value one day. If we can stay in that frequency, then there is no thing that you're going through that makes you feel like you're not valuable or there's something wrong with you. And there's also nothing that's happening that's just not good enough. Because here's where, when you don't have difficult times, sometimes you lose perspective, not because you need it, but because you're not enforcing gratitude. So I'm going to give you an example. When we look at the people who are born into money, and why the people who don't have money have such a difficult relationship with the people who are born into money. And tell me if you agree with this, is that it appears as though they take their money for granted. It appears as though they take the ease for granted. It appears as though they take their life for granted. It's like you have no idea how hard it could be. You take this all for granted. That's what's hardest for us. If I had that, I would ... If I had that, I would ... This makes sense. But I'm going to ask you a very true question. How much do you value what you have? And we're going to break it down together because this is the difference between are you grateful for what you have versus do you value what you have? So people will say you've got to be grateful for what you have in order to call in more. Have you heard that in manifestation courses and the money courses and things like that? So it's very hard to be grateful for what you have when what you have is not what you want. However, a lot of the times we want what we want until we have it, and then we immediately want something else, in which case we're grateful that it's there. We wouldn't want it to not be there. We are in understanding that it's better that it's there, but we don't value that it's there. Like you're grateful you're married, but when's the last time you had the experience of valuing the partner that is sitting in the chair next to you? Like you're grateful for your car, you wouldn't not want to have it, but when's the last time you had the experience of valuing the car? Of thinking even of what its value is to your life. It's rare that we'll think of doing that. And when it's brought to us to be grateful for everything we have, and it's like, you've got to be grateful for your breath, and you've got to be grateful for your this, and you've got to be grateful for your that. It seems very airy-fairy. It feels like, yes, kumbaya, I'm so grateful. There's something missing from the realism of why. Why? Because if you don't value what you have, if you don't really value it, you're not really thinking about it. You're not contemplating how valuable it is. Because if you were, and this is the breakthrough that I had, if we were really valuing what we had, we'd be contemplating how to use what we have way more than thinking how we would be better off if we had what we want, which is the thing we're actually valuing. So I say to myself, I'll give you an example. Okay, I have 3 clients right now in my life. But if I had 10, I would feel blah, blah, blah. And someone says, you've got to be grateful for the 3 you have. And you're like, I am. Are you? Because the question is, if I valued the 3 I had, how would I be behaving in accordance to that? How do you behave when you're grateful for 3 clients, when you value 3 clients? There's a move there if you actually think about it. And it's a very similar move to the move you would make in your mind that you imagine you would make if you had 10 clients. I'd be more confident. I'd post more about my clients. I'd post more about testimonials. I'd ask for testimonials. There's something about the value of something you don't have where you imagine you would do things or you would feel a way or you would be a way if you had those things. Like those things, then you would value your business. You would value your clientele. You would value your skills. You would value your craft. You would value where you're at. You would value it then because then it would mean something about you. But when you first started, you said things like, if I had at least just one customer, if I could just have evidence of one customer that would buy this, it would make me feel like it was real. And then you had one and you were like, 2, maybe 3, how about 10? Because the thing is, the needle moves because we don't understand valuing what we have. We understand grateful for what we have. And it usually comes with this like, yes, of course I'm grateful. But valuing what I have has a very different feeling. So my brother and sister told me about this show that they were watching called Alone. And this show is all about people surviving in the wilderness alone. So not like Big Brother where there are a whole bunch of people, like literally alone. They go into the wilderness with 10 items and they've got to survive the longest. They don't know how long people are there. They don't know how long other people are there for. They don't know how people are doing. They don't know anything. They just know of themselves and their journey. And they know that one day, if they win, someone will walk in and say, you've survived. At this point in the game where I saw it, people have been out. There were 10 people who first started. There's 6 left, and they're like 46 days in with 10 items. They had to choose 10 items. So some people said, I will bring a bow and arrow, and I will bring a fire starter, and I will bring a very sharp knife, and I will bring, 10 items to survive however many days. It's called Alone. So at the beginning of this show, one person was like, I know how to make fire. Like, I'm a pro at making fire. So I'm not going to bring a fire starter. Because if I'm only allowed to have 10 items, I don't value the fire starter if I know how to make my own fire. Does this make sense? Now, if another person is saying, I don't know how to rub a rock and a stick together and make a fire, so I'm going to bring the fire starter because I value knowing how to make fire. One person brings fire starter, one person doesn't. If a person's like, I am extraordinary at archery, I am bringing a bow and arrow. Yes, I value this tool because I can use it. The other person's like, I'm not bringing a bow and arrow. I couldn't shoot something if it was standing still 3 foot in front of me. So there's no point in me bringing that. Every person values different things and they bring these 10 items with them. Now, it would be the most superficial thing in the world to ask these people, are you grateful for the 10 items you have? What do you mean grateful? I live by these 10 things. I value them like my life depends on them. If I were to lose that fire starter, it would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me. This is not just like gratitude. This is like, I am so grateful I have this fire starter. Every time they're able to get food, start a fire, cut something they couldn't have cut with any other thing ever, the feeling they experience, it's mind-boggling. The value for everything they catch, every fish they catch, every sunrise, every sunset, every fire that goes according to plan, everything. It's like, oh my God, thank you. Like the value of that thing is be all end all value. If you were to say, so are you grateful you brought a fire starter? That's like saying, so are you grateful you brought your special lipstick because it's your favorite? Like the value of the word gratitude has been so overused that even when we take courses or we read a book about it, when that word shows up, we discredit the word now. We're like, oh, I know that frequency. We have no idea what that frequency is. We have not studied that frequency enough. Far from it. And so there's people who have mastered the energetics of gratitude, and they're saying the word gratitude because they've mastered the energetics. And we're listening to them say gratitude, thinking we know what gratitude is, not knowing the energetics of gratitude, thinking been there, done that, took the course, should know what gratitude is, pretty simple. Why is this not working for me? But in fact, it's beyond whatever we've ever experienced when we're talking universal law. When we're speaking like, there is no greater truth than this in the entire world. The things you value are undeniable. You can't forget you value something. You either do or you don't. And this is why people can say, like, I know I've got to remember to be grateful. Then you don't value the thing. You do not forget to be grateful about something that you value. You don't forget to be grateful for something you value. It's impossible. When you value something, the gratitude is at the forefront of your relationship with that very thing. And it tends to show up, and this is where we've got to look at the realism, because it's so easy to go to pessimism. And this is why we need maturity, and this is why these conversations are so important. It is the easiest to value something when you need it. Because if you need a fire starter or you're going to freeze tonight and you find one, that's the kind of gratitude, like, oh my gosh, I'm grateful. And we do not feel that nearly as much as we would think. And I will tell you, when I have conversations with people who have really mastered spirituality and money, there's a common denominator. The level of value they see in money brings tears to my eyes. When they talk to me about money, when they speak to me about money, I feel something in my being, like they got it. And so when people say you can't be spiritual and wealthy at the same time, what they really mean is most people can only handle one frequency, all about the money or all about the gratitude. But most people become numb to the things they have. This is the truth. You have something, you forget to be grateful for it until something happens that makes you fear you're going to lose it. Either someone goes through something and they lose it and it makes you realize that happened to me, oh my gosh. Or either something almost happens and you're like, oh my gosh, thank God that didn't happen. If that would have happened, I could have lost. Then you value the thing when you contemplate how extraordinary it is to have it and what life would be without it. And you do that with the things that you have. Now, we live in a society right now where we are shown a lot of things to want and a lot of things to desire, which means the only way to really value what you have is to either have a lot less and to be so grateful, like for these 10 items, or to make this a practice that is non-negotiable in your life, but it's so flawless and it's so often that most people wouldn't even believe you if you told them how much and how often and for how many things in your life you do this. And so any client that's ever told me, no, I am grateful. Of course I'm grateful. I'm like, even in the way you told me that, I felt you're not. There's so much work to do about this, because gratitude, it feels like a relief. It feels like you're so in love with what you have that you're relieved that you have it. Like you take a breath when you felt like you couldn't breathe. You value that breath more than any breath you've been taking subconsciously for your entire life. You think you lose your child in a supermarket. The minute you find them, that is the most value you have felt for motherhood in a very long time. There is a jolt of that you feel. We can create that in writing out our gratitudes. But I think if you really think about it, me saying that, you can create these feelings by writing out your gratitudes, by journaling your gratitudes, meaning you could write stories that help you tap into those feelings, but they would hurt as much as they feel good. That is not how you've been writing your gratitudes. You've been writing gratitudes as if writing a grocery list of things will make the universe respond to your wishes. Gratitude is the most spiritual experience. It's the understanding that our life is so extraordinarily fragile, and on top of our aliveness, we have more. There's so much more value that you have than you even consider. If you sit in your life right now, you're wherever you are, I'm seeing a lot of you in your houses, some of you are on your balconies. Like, I just want you to look at your house and tell me what someone that's in this alone show with a lighter and a knife and a fishing line would do to exchange places with you for one night. When they're alone and there's a wolf outside or a wolverine outside or a bear outside, and they've just caught something fresh that they've had to like prepare and hope to eat it for 2 weeks, and it's dangling above the very place they're sleeping. And there's a 50% chance the fire they made inside the cabin that took them 2 weeks to make could burn while they're asleep. They're going to find out only if it happens. They pray. If they could just go and be right where you are right now, what do you think the feeling would be in their body? Gratitude. But that's gratitude. So writing out your gratitudes is not a list. It's not something like write a million things you're grateful for until you can't think of anything else. It's write how deeply grateful you are for something until you can't take the duality between the pain and the pleasure. It makes you so grateful for what you have that you're so aware of how easy it could be gone, and that duality is so strong it's almost hard to hold the void. It's almost hard to hold the duality. That's gratitude. When you're so clear that what you have is temporary and could be taken, and you allow yourself to feel as much pain as you do gratitude, that's real gratitude. Now, some of you might be listening to this going, okay, yeah, I've not been doing gratitude lists. I don't think that's what I've been doing. That's okay. The goal of this right now is not that you feel guilty for not having done it properly. The goal here is that you actually get a breakthrough in how much more work there is to be done, and why this is not just like, kumbaya, I got it. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the clients that are coming to me in my sleep. I am so grateful. It's like, it's so much more than that. I value that my desire to want to be there for people will help people on the planet go through things in this moment they don't know how they'll make it through. I value that the skills that I acquire throughout my career actually will save people's financial legacy and change entire cultures over the space and time that I'm alive on this planet, and then far beyond that. I value every single skill I learned that makes me capable in a moment of unexpected need to support a client in something that I would never have known I would have needed that skill for, and ends up in that moment being the comfort they needed that night to sleep in peace and to be aware for their children that night that needed an aware parent. I am grateful that I provide something that gives people the ability to ... This is the kind of gratitude that we're talking about. And it's not supposed to be a very easy list that you just go blah, 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 blah. But everything on the planet exists on different frequencies. It exists on the fast food frequency, and it exists on the Michelin star frequency. And so this doesn't mean you stop being grateful at the 100 list tonight. And you say, what's the point of doing that? Melanie says it's worthless. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that you're going to probably have to stretch your awareness of what gratitude means for a while before you stand in the actual frequency that the energetic masters of manifestation have been trying to tell us for centuries. And the people who don't get it, who sell a 7-minute visualization on TikTok that you took, that you're mad at them that it didn't work, have not got the same thing on their agenda. It's not the same thing. So before we even have a guided practice for this, we've got to talk, because I can make you imagine things till the cows come home. If you don't even know what to begin to imagine, we're not going anywhere. Peter 167, by my 7-minute activation on gratitude will take you at a level of gratitude that is not the same, not that it is not valuable, but it is not the same as the people who transcended the thought gratitude is the key to manifestation. It's not the same thing. And when you look at the people who really have gone through hell and back, the thing they have in common is they experienced a moment of gratitude that was real. That's what they have. I've studied this forever, and this is the greatest common denominator. It's not their failure, it's the feeling that came from surviving it. And we can create that in thought. We can create that in visualization. We can create that in energy, but we've got to be strong enough mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to not take on the shadow of the thing we're going to have to imagine in order to get there as a possible truth once we're done with the gratitude. Because it does not serve you if I take you to the deepest, darkest fears of your life for you to touch gratitude. And then when you're asleep at night, all you can think about is the very possibility of the thing. And now I've created a monster. There's no value in that. Where the value is in this is not to push you to be more grateful faster. It's in the understanding that there actually is a journey, and that you're going to become wiser and stronger as you work on your emotional intelligence, as you work on honoring yourself and your value, as you actually see things that happen in your life as an absolute blessing, as you learn to hold the void as it is in your life right now, the things that actually are hard in this moment as they're difficult, when you don't try to bypass them and pretend they don't exist just to go, la, 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 be positive or else you'll manifest hard stuff. If you're actually able to be like, there's value in the hard times, and I'm so grateful for the strength. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And I'm so grateful I have this opportunity to live through this so I can prove it to myself. If you can be wise, and mature and realistic in things that people are just pretending you can just pull out of your nose, and everyone's mad that it doesn't work, like, it blows my mind that with the level of proof we have of this work, there are still people claiming this work is not real. Until I watch how some people deliver this work. And I'm like, I have a feeling the people who claim this is crap took your program. Because of what are you talking about? Like, where did you even get your, like, you're not a teacher yet. If you believe in this, go be an affiliate for someone else's program, but you got to stop teaching this because you're telling the whole world this is a lie, because that's not it, the way you're saying it. And I'm getting frustrated because I know that this is the thing that's going to be the gateway to the world changing, is deepness instead of superficiality. And the superficiality is rampant right now. So rampant that even the people with depth are seen as superficial. And so I want to touch that for a moment. Now, there are different ways that people value things on the planet. And I want to have a real, mature conversation with you about what you value. And I want you to fully take your mind back on this subject, because you are going to recognize, and I talked about this in Quadrant for those of you that were with me in Quadrant, that there are things that you see that you just think you should have because the people who have it seem happy. Now, the fact that they seem happy is so different than them valuing it, is so different from them actually being happy, is so different from everything. But the superficial trend of now is if it looks at it, is it? And we've got to transcend that to tap into something bigger. So we're going to talk about value in a bit of a different way, because there are people, and I want you to think of this, like, there are different types of businesses that you could go to, and someone could say it's the best thing in the world, and when you go, it's not what you value. And so although you get the concept, it's not valuable to you, and you feel guilty that this is not valuable to you because everybody else thought it was so great and it's not valuable to you. That is okay. You're allowed to have that experience. But what the world wants to do is discredit everybody else who had a good experience by saying, this is terrible, which is not the truth. What we want to do is learn to value ourselves and other people while understanding that different people value different things. I don't know how we're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s having this discussion as though this is the topic of the day, but it is. So what does this look like? I'm going to take the business model of a hairdresser. Does anyone here have a hair salon? Raise your hand if you have a hair salon, or say me if you've ever done hair dressing in your life. Okay. So let's say I say to the people here, I have found the best hair salon in the world. The best in the world. There are people here who will say, I don't even need to know what that means. I just want to know where it is, and I will travel there because if it's the best hair salon in the world, I need to go. Because my value comes from going to the best place in the world, period. If it's been renowned as that, I want to try it. That's it. That's all I need. I'm going. Now, there are other people that will question it. What makes it the best hair salon in the world? You go there, you can only do a haircut and color and treatment. You've got to get the whole thing. It costs $1,000, but these are the best trained people. They're in every fashion magazine on the entire planet. They're the best. They're the most renowned. You say, oh, I don't value that. I don't color my hair. I was actually just looking for someone to snip the ends off for me. And someone says, this is the absolute best hairstylist in the world. Why? How come? I have never had someone style my hair so fast. They will take care of you so fast, your husband won't even realize you're gone. It's the perfect thing, like no more excuses. And you look great when you come out. And someone's like, I don't value that. I want goddess time. When I go for a hair appointment, I hope it takes long. And I hope they offer me a coffee and a magazine. I want to sit there away from everyone for a long time and have a good excuse for that. Oh. This is the best hair salon in the world. When you go there, you walk in and they offer you a glass of champagne and the decor is absolutely beautiful. I don't drink. And I actually prefer to keep my eyes closed and meditate during my hair appointment. Everyone is so different. This hair salon is the best in the world because the people, they are so, they know all the trends. You go there and they will find you the most trendy look. You'll be so fashionable. I don't care about the trends. I don't care about the fashion. What do you value? We go to a car cleaning service. I want to be the best. I want my car wash to be the best car wash in the city. So what do I do? If it's going to be the best, what should I do? Well, I should probably have a seating area for people to wait. Meanwhile, this person's saying, this guy's the best in the city. It takes 10 minutes. You don't even have time to sit down. You go for a pee, you come out, your car is clean. You don't need a seating area. I want to be the best in the area. I meticulously wash the car like it's a work of art. If you come in with a luxury car, I clean the whole thing. I have a wait list. You put your car on it every month and your car comes out sparkling. There's never going to be a scratch. You're like, I need to be able to come in with no appointment and I need it to be done fast. It's not the best car service in the world. This is the car service where you go and they will fix anything that's not right with your car while you're there. I would never do that. I go directly to the place that does the car. So value is different for everybody. And what we've got to understand is that if we're trying to be the best in the world or the best period without contemplating what value means to people, we're constantly overdoing it. I'm overdoing it to give you value. And you're like, you're giving me everything when that's not what I value. And we do this not just in business. Have you ever said to an ex-partner, I gave you everything, or I gave them everything? Have you ever felt that way? I gave this friend everything. I gave my family everything. I gave my partner everything. You gave them everything you value. They valued different things that you felt weren't valuable, things they felt you took for granted when they gave you. It's a mismatch in value. We've got to learn to value ourselves so much and understand that what makes us the greatest is not valuable to another person, and that's okay. That's the most powerful thing we can do for ourselves. because then we don't get distracted in trying to do things that are not valuable to us just to have perceived value to someone else. We lose most of our energy in doing that. And then what happens is when you've done something that's not valuable to you, to have perceived value to somebody else, that person is not valuable to you. Because you do not feel appreciated by them. You don't feel loved by them. You don't feel seen by them. You don't feel like they're going to stay. You don't feel like they're going to refer you people. If they did, they'd be just like them. You do not value the people. You need to do fake value to receive. The people you value the most are the people who love you effortlessly and tell you how much they do for things that you barely recognize within yourself. Those are the people that you're the most grateful, that you value the most having in your life. It's the partner that looks at you first thing in the morning when you look like bad breath and says, "You're so beautiful." You're like, what would I do without you? Like, I thank you so much. Rather than the person that only values people who dress this way and that way, and you dress the part for the part, and they recognize that you dress well, and you're like, yay, but you're not like, wow. Our goal is to go where we are valued and where we value people effortlessly in our life, in our businesses, in our skills. What skills do I value? What do I value? What do I value? What do I value? This is the most important question. Because if you go with what you value, you will attract people who value what you value, and your life will become far more effortless. And beyond that, you're going to see the value in people. Every single time someone does something that you really value, you'll say, gosh, I really value that you did that. Like I had a woman yesterday that did a testimonial for me about this program on Instagram. And she did it in a way that I so value. She took time to choose the perfect graphic. She used my brand by the fire with a beautiful bottle of champagne. She put a filter on it. I value these things. Now, it's not that if someone gave a testimonial with a picture of the backside of their cat, that it would not be a valuable testimonial, but I felt valued even more by the care and the attention that was made in the testimonial that was very much in my image. What I would love for you to know is that there's things you do in life because they're you, but people don't get it because it's not them. And there's things you will do so effortlessly just by being you, and people will think you are the greatest thing since sliced bread, Jennifer. Because you're an energetic match, because it's like, it was so easy for me to do this for you. I value this. This is the path of least resistance for relationships in your life. And it's the path of least resistance for business and money. So I'll give you another example. And this comes to mind because we've been visiting Kevin's family at the farm. And Kevin, his family always had, they were farmers. They did apples and peaches and sweet corn and tomatoes. And so imagine I'm a farmer and I really care about my crops. Like I care about having the best crops. And I want to make sure that my apples are pristine. But in order to make sure my apples are pristine, I can't also be taking care of cucumbers because they take a completely different system. And so I need to just focus on one thing. If I'm going to make them amazing, I'm going to focus on apples. I value the apples so much, so much, so much, so much. And they're the best apples in the county. Everyone wants my apples. They're the best. And so now I've got these apples, but I don't have any cucumbers. And you have had the exact same feeling about cucumbers, and you have the best cucumbers. I could literally come to you with my apples and say, I love how well you take care of your cucumbers. I value my apples the same way. I'd love to offer you some of my best apples in exchange for some of your best cucumbers. That would be a really awesome exchange. Because you value your apples as much as I value my cucumbers, and I feel this is a valuable exchange. Now, what if I don't really care about them being perfect? That's not what matters. You can cut the dead bits off. Who needs a perfect apple? Relax, it's an apple. And I come to you with a batch of good apples, and you have prize-winning cucumbers that you've given your whole life to the best possible cucumbers. And I say to you, I'd love some cucumbers. I'll give you some apples for free in exchange. Well, I'm going to look at your apples in the same lens I value my cucumbers. And I'll say, well, they're not the same value. How do you decide that an apple is worth less than a cucumber? Because I valued my cucumbers more than you valued your apples. It's not a good exchange. You can cut off the bad bits. Go find a cucumber person who believes just cut off the bad bits. They will exchange you. Cucumbers, you can cut off the bad bits. For apples, you can cut off the bad bits, and no one will feel bad or guilty or shameful that they should be doing a better job. But when you want to say, I don't feel good enough, every summer for the last 20 years, I have walked up to the apple farm and brought my manky cucumbers to them, and I have presented them and asked them for apples in exchange, and every year they look down at my cucumbers and say, no, I will not cut off the rotten bits. Go home with your manky cucumbers. Every year for 20 years, I've done the same thing, and every year I'm simply not good enough. Why would you do that? Raise your standards or go find the cucumber farm that believes cut off the bad bits. Trust me, they exist. End of season, end of season. Cut off the bad bits, cut off the bad bits. Prize winning, prize winning. Yes, but Melanie, I really tried my best for my cucumbers to survive. That's great. They didn't. Yes, but shouldn't that be just as valuable? No. There are also people who did everything they could for their apples to turn out great, and they didn't. Ask around, you'll find them. Who here did everything they could for their apples to turn out great and had a bad season? This farmer. Thank you. You will go find the energetic match for your product. But your product can get better, and you can learn and you can get more skills. But the biggest mistake we make is we want more for what we have. We don't value how difficult it actually is to have the result we don't have yet. If you want a result in your small grocery store, yes, a breakthrough for credibility. This makes me very happy. You go to the grocery store, you create your own little grocery store. It's you make it perfect, you curate it perfectly, you choose the floors and the ceilings and the light fixtures. It's the cutest little corner store you've ever seen in your whole entire life. And the place next door that's entirely broken down says, you want to do an exchange service? I can come and shop here for free and you can shop at mine for free. And you're like, oh. It's not that you're not valuable as a person. It's that it's not valuable for me to make this exchange. It's not an energetic match. But if you raise the standard of your shop, then yes. It's not like you're not worth it and you'll never be worth it. If you put in the effort, then yes. And if I ever lower my standards, if my bright-eyed, bushy-tailed approach to business one day becomes exhausted, and I realize that I can't hold up this standard, that people don't even appreciate it, and in 10 years from now, I'm as broken down as you are, then also yes, because I might not know how hard it is just to keep this standard for a long time. We need to value what it looks like for a person to be successful today, for a month, for 10 years, for forever, before we start saying this person's better than me. It's like, I value the difficulty or the level of difficulty it might have taken for a person to be successful for 10 years. And I'm not going to take it personally when that person charges more than me, or is more efficient than me in a certain thing, or has more success than me in this area. I'm not going to compare myself to that. I'm going to look at the value that I have brought to the world over my 6 months versus their 10 years. And I'll say, this is brilliant. This is perfect. But there's value in creating connections with people who do better and not as well as you. I'm going to give you an example for that. So let's say we'll go back to the car wash place. I go to the car wash place and I say, hey, I would love for you to take extraordinary care of my car. This is my brand new car. It's my dream car. If there's a scratch on it, I will have to kill you. Can you please wash this car like your life depends on it? They're like, no, we don't have time for that. We have a quick turnaround service. Our guys do not know how to do that. So I can't. But there is a person down the street. They charge about 10 times what we charge. They are the absolute best. They will clean this stuff with a toothbrush. They're the best. Thank you. I'm going there. If, however, these guys have been on social media going, we're not going to try to take all your money. We charge as least as possible. And we do a real good job. And there's guys right down the road trying to rip you off, taking all your money. There's very slim chance of that collaboration occurring. Same thing on the other side. If someone comes in and they're like, okay, I need a really quick car wash. I'm in a hurry. And they're like, we do not do hurry, sir. We are professionals. This will take 3.5 hours and we have a sleeping area for you to take a nap because of how long this is going to take. You can also order filet mignon and caviar, and we have a bar service for you. Please be seated and do not pressure us. We do not have time for this. And they're like, don't have time for that. I need my car ready in 10 minutes. They'll be like, we know really good guys. They do a great job. They are careful. They're very fast and efficient. They're down the road. But if they're slamming on social media, there are people out there that can clean your car in 10 minutes. There's no way your car's clean, blah, blah, blah. That will never happen. There are different pieces of the puzzle on the planet for a reason. You've got to value everything in order to be a match for everything. You've got to value the farmers that have the crops where you can cut the bad bits off. And you've got to value the prize winning apples. You've got to value the 5-minute car wash and the one that comes with a room to sleep in because it's going to take you till tomorrow in order for it to be ready. You've got to value the all service included $2,500 hair appointment as much as you value the barber that has you in and out in 5 minutes. Because if you can't do that, there will always be more evidence of people who don't value you than people who do. It's in our need to find our value in the contrast that we fail. Now, this is how this whole call gets tied together. And I know you're going to need to watch this a bunch of times in order to get it all. This is a big module, but this is how it all ties together. If I only find my value in contrast, I will always need to find people that suck in order to feel good about me. Either because they charge too much or they're not good enough, or they charge too little and they're too good. I'm going to have to find contrast in order to make myself feel valuable. But if I see value in everything, the contrast just makes me see more value. In one, I have circumstantial power. In one, I have personal power. This is the difference between the people who are rich and the people who are not. That's all. That's all. If you see that contrast brings you the ability to see value more, you will not get caught in the lie that you need contrast as evidence that you're valuable. And you'll stop comparing yourself to everything and everyone, and instead you will find how you belong everywhere. You have a piece that fits in every single puzzle you want to be a part of. If you understand that the contrast just makes you see the value. If these people charge this much and these people charge this much, then I fit just right. If this person has 10 years experience, this person has 20 years experience, this person has 5 years experience, I fit just right. If this person has this level of expertise and that person have this level of expertise, I fit in just right. Instead of, I've not been here long enough in comparison. I'm not good enough in comparison. I'm not this enough in comparison. It's not supposed to be comparison. It's supposed to be the more value you see, the more value you are. And if you want evidence of that, just ask yourself, who is most valuable in your circle? The people who see your value or the people who try to contrast your value with theirs? Who do you keep around? Who do you refer people to? Who do you send business to? Who do you celebrate? Who do you associate with? Who do you do joint collaborations with? Who do you talk about? There's no question. Value sees value. Lack of value seeks contrast for evidence. So your homework today is I want you to look at the places in your life where you have looked for contrast to give yourself validation. I am nicer than this person. I don't understand how this person could have ended up with the person I like. I'm way more this than that. I don't understand why this person has so many social media followers. I don't understand why this person's making so much money. I don't understand. They've been doing it way less long than me. I'm older. I'm younger. I'm more this. I'm less that. I want you to find all the places where you've done that. And I want you to actually take some time to look at the value of those people and how if you see value in them, you absolutely automatically fit in somehow. Every time. What I've been trying to create with the Alpha Femme brand since the beginning of it is that we all belong. Instead of people saying, oh, well, you've got to be this in order to succeed. It's like, no, but there's people who do this that succeed. You've got to do this to succeed. No, but there are people who do this that succeed. On the day you realize there are people who do everything that succeed, you stop comparing. We're wasting all of our valuable energy. So when we talk about, the energetics of things. I hope you understand what we're really talking about. This is not energy like a spell. This is energy like what things actually vibrate on, the frequency of a thought, the actual experience of being near a person that thinks this way. The feeling of walking into a room where you feel like everybody hates you, or the feeling of walking into a room where you're about to get a standing ovation. The feeling of a person looking at you in a way when they want to take your clothes off versus the person looking at you wanting you to leave the room. There are different vibes. You feel them. There's a frequency to a look, a sound. You can tell a person, you know what she said to me? She said this. And the person says, that's not bad. Well, it's not what she said. It's the way she said it. I just know. There's a frequency to the way she said it. The energetics doesn't mean the strategy doesn't matter. The energetics means it's the way you do the strategy that makes it work. And I have yet to find people I'm excited to teach strategy to because they still don't get the energy. But on the day that people start to understand this, I'll be teaching strategy till the cows come home because I have about 100 million strategies and they all work. But I'm not about to give people 100 million reasons to fail. And that's what you give a person when you give them strategy, when their energy's off, when they're constantly trying to show one person's better than the other person, when they're constantly worried about this and that, when they're not seeing the value, when they think they know what gratitude is. No, we can do so much better than this. So as we release this call, there's some things I want you to leave behind. If there's anything of this that you're feeling, I want you to leave it behind. If there is any part of this call that made you feel you were doing something wrong, I want you to leave it here. That's not what this is. If there's any part of this call that makes you feel guilty or ashamed for anything you've done, anything you've said, any way that you've marketed, any way that you've said anything to anyone, I want you to let that go. It doesn't matter. That is a contrast that is valuable if you can look at it, but you do not need it for your validation to be right or wrong. Just let it go. This is all about you get to start from fresh from now. If there's any part of you that's judging someone else here, you've had an interaction with them before going, I hope they're listening because they've done this, let that go. That also doesn't fit. This was a valuable class. I am a valuable person. I see value. Value finds me and I know how to utilize it. When I understand value, I value it. When I see value, I value it. And the value I value creates more value in my life. The more valuable I am, the more valuable I feel to other people and the more value I bring to the world. And I get compensated for the value that I am, that I create, and that I have. This is like a never-ending, perpetual abundance cycle. Now we're talking about abundance. And this is where all of these words that mean nothing actually mean everything. And it's why we're not going anywhere, because the teachings are incomplete. I want to give you complete teachings. These may make your head spin at first. It may feel not valuable to not understand. Instead, see the contrast of how much more there is to embody for this to be so big your mind can't even comprehend it, instead of boycotting an entire reality. Because what I've seen is people say, I've tried the gratitude thing and it doesn't work for me. So becoming super rich and in love and all this, it's not possible for me. What I would prefer is for you to see, now that I understand the contrast in my level of understanding and what's actually available, I can believe that there is so much I can do on this planet when I understand these things. Because it was hard for me to understand that from this level of comprehension, I could just make magically appear more of anything. But if I'm walking down this path and I learn and I understand what I'm learning piece by piece, if I get it, I wouldn't be shocked if the energetic match to that is out of this world love, out of this world miracles, out of this world wealth, out of this world business. There is more for me to learn. This wasn't just surface level, and if I didn't get it, I failed. This is like, I literally just opened a small crack of a small window that could take me everywhere. The journey I come from, it took me from sleeping in the front seat of a car to having $1 million days. I'm telling you, when you crack the code on this, there is no limit. The sky isn't even the limit. It's going to blow your freaking mind what you can do. But you've got to go deeper than you've ever gone, and you've got to value yourself more than you ever have. This has got to just matter to you enough to go the distance in learning it, and you'll have it. That's it. And if on one day you realize it's not that valuable, to give yourself this journey to say, I don't know if it's this valuable to me, Melanie. I don't know if it is. This is a lot. I don't know if I'm willing to go on the whole adventure thing of learning all this. I don't know if it is. That's okay. Because the feeling of you can just cut the bits off, there's also a life and energetic match where you can cut the bits off and it's an extraordinary life. It doesn't have to be prize winning. And you'll find in the next modules of what we're talking about, I want to show you how to value all the chapters of your life. Because one of the greatest things about my life is the chapters I've had that I've valued equally, whether they were swinging in a $20 hammock under twinkling lights, pretending they were stars, or flying in a private jet. There's a way to value all of it equally. And I want to show you how to do that, because then you get the power of choice on top of the understanding of value, and you become unstoppable. I hope you had fun today. You might need to watch this on the replay, but the homework, and please do it more than listening to this again. Before you listen to this again, write down all the places you've compared yourself to use contrast for validation, and look at where you could have just as easily seen value in the very people you tried to contrast with, and you could have fit in with them. If you would have just chosen to belong, what could have happened? Just for fun. No guilt. If there's any of that, if you think you've messed it all up, put it down. That's not valuable. We want to stretch your mind here, not make you feel bad. The energetics matter. Stretch your mind. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. I am so incredibly grateful for you. The next module is a question module, which I know there will be plenty. So I'm going to be putting the next question thread in the group. Just do the homework before you ask the questions. That's all I ask. Integrity check. If you haven't done the homework, don't ask the question. Value my time as much as you value yours and the people in this group. You didn't have the time to do the homework. Well, if there's a question we don't have the time to take, it should be yours. That's valuing other people. We make the time for each other. We make the time for each other. We make the time for each other. You got this. You're beautiful. You smell nice. And I will see you very soon.